All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're here, pay-per-view week, UFC 320, Ankalaev versus Pereira 2, co-headlined by another title fight, Philly versus Sandhagen. Should be an absolutely exciting card. Here was a lot of picks, predictions. Mark Berry, TMA. Let's get right into it. This is the second week I've done this in a row. Give me a second. Second week in a row. Okay. Starting off at flyweight, we got Veronica Hardy taking on Brogan Walker after a very, very long layoff for Walker. See here, Hardy minus 825, by far the second biggest favorite on the card. Second only by a crazy line. And Walker, obviously, plus 575. And the odds, they should look correct. Sorry, correct, right? Hardy should be able to do whatever she wants in the pocket, on the feet. She should be able to, have a lot of success grappling against Walker. Obviously it's a woman's fight, so it should be kind of close. Might be closer in the margins, but there's a lot of things going against Walker here. Obviously, I think just the pure striking, the dynamic striking from Hardy is going to give Walker tons of issues. The jiu-jitsu realm, especially the wrestling, if Hardy is able to find takedowns in this fight, she's going to get dominated on top. That just is what it is. And obviously, like I said, the layoff is about 2 years, I believe. So, and obviously Hardy has been active these past couple years after a considerably long layoff herself, and she looks decent in this division. I think that's definitely going to be enough to steamroll past a gal like Walker, who has struggled against even the lower level of competition. She couldn't get past Juliana Miller, which is just a huge red flag. So, going to keep this one short and simple. The pick is Veronica Hardy win this fight. I actually got her by submission here. I think she could definitely get something going on the ground, but that's a bit of a flyer. All right, moving up to welterweight here. We got Ramiz Brahimaj taking on Austin Vanderford. Should be a pretty good welterweight fight. It has some decently high stakes. Just outside the rankings, Brahimaj plus 250, Vanderford minus 300. And these odds way surprise me in my opinion. I get Vanderford being the favorite in this fight, right? Because he does have the overall better wrestling, and if the fight does extend, we haven't really seen Brahimaj's cardio, the new version of Brahimaj's cardio, kind of get extended. We've seen in the past, him fade a little bit. I'm not sure if he's completely be able to fix that yet, but I just have to assume that if this fight does get extended, Vanderford should have an advantage. Guy's got nice ground and pound, but the thing I'm worried about for Vanderford is the striking. That's why I'm going to pick Brahimaj here. I think he's the overall more well-rounded fighter here. And it's a bit of a risk, I know, because what I just said, right? He's a bit undersized. Cardio hasn't looked great. He does chase submissions at times, but he's looked better and better ever since that loss to Temba Garimbo. He's come back 2 in a row, 2 by first-round finish, and he showed off the hands, too. First career knockout 2 fights ago against Mickey Gall, where he used the hands. Then he came back against Billy Goff as a big dog and was able to kind of get into his realm of the grappling and find that standing guillotine to put Goff to sleep. And I was really high on Goff in that fight too, and he proved me wrong. So I think especially early in this fight that Vanderford's going to struggle finding those shots. As long as Brahimaj isn't chasing submissions, he should be able to stuff those shots. And on the feet, I think there's a big, big advantage for Brahimaj, especially the power that he has in his hands and the more dynamic overall striking. Vanderford has simple striking that's decent, but we've seen Brahimaj really expanded his striking arsenal. So maybe just another flyer. Give me Brahimaj to win by decision here. But like I said, his best path to victory probably getting this done by early finish. All right, another welterweight fight. We got Punahele Soriano. Puna taking on Nikolai Veretennikov. Punahele Soriano. That line started to expand and expand and expand. He was minus 200 for quite a while, up to minus 320 now. Veretennikov, obviously his line's expanded as well, plus 270. And, on one hand, for people kind of lenient on Soriano, I do get it, right? Because he is one of the more inconsistent guys, especially when he was at middleweight, too. He was probably one of the most inconsistent middleweights, right? Because he'd be big favorites to everyone. You see D3 college wrestler, big power in the hands, but he wasn't really able to put it together at middleweight. Suffered a couple pretty bad back-to-back losses at that weight class, and kind of had to drop down, reinvent himself at welterweight. And he's been dominant in his 2 welterweight performances. Now, granted, it was against Miguel Baeza, who's no longer with the promotion, but he dominated that fight, right? 30-25. Then he comes out and starches Urosh Medic in 30 seconds. So I can't really hate on his welterweight self. He looks like he's more consistent at welterweight, can wrestle if he wants to, and it's all gonna be a problem against Veretenikov. I do not like this guy's takedown defense, and his overall striking defense also is pretty lacking. He knows what he's doing. He probably won't. He's not gonna get submitted by a guy like Soriano, but that striking defense, man, his chin is up in the air. He gets hit a bunch. He's tough, but he gets hit a lot. Obviously, he's aging out too, and I don't like the takedown defense for this guy at all. I think his takedown defense is far and away his worst asset in his arsenal. Right, we saw against Vanderford, he kept getting taken down and taken down and taken down. Ultimately, ground and pound and TKO'd. Even against Prado, who I just don't rate highly at all, he was getting taken down by Francisco Prado. I thought he lost that fight against Prado, so I do get the hesitation against Soriano, but I mean he shouldn't mess this one up. He's fought already better guys than Veretenikov at welterweight, and he's absolutely smoked them. So I don't expect anything different in this fight. Honestly, I thought at minus like 220 you were getting value. That value's probably gone at minus 320, but I still like him to get this done by knockout. All right, bantamweight fight. We got everyone's favorite bantamweight, Patchy Mix, taking on Jacob Wilklaz. Mix minus 300 and Wilklaz is plus 250. I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name right. I'll just call him Jacob from now on. Patchy Mix, listen, I get it, right? Fade, PFL Tour, Patchy Mix, embarrassing debut. Oh my God, he's facing another young guy right now, and he's a good grappler. How is Patchy Mix minus 300? I know that's what a lot of people are saying, but you got to understand this, right? UFC debut, and it was against Mario Batista, right? And I think understand the main problem is that he didn't give him just didn't give himself a chance to win this fight. And the game planning was poor in that fight, right? He didn't try for very many takedowns, didn't try to initiate the grappling, which is what he loves. And luckily for him in this fight, he does have a guy that will, you know, exchange the grappling with him. Jacob Wilklaz, no knockout victories, almost all of his wins coming by submission. The striking just doesn't look complete on his side. He's a regional dude, coming over from KSW. He's good, but I just think Patchy Mix just fought a much higher level of competition. You could argue on a two-fight skid, but I mean, those are two really, really good guys, Magomed Magomedov and like I said, Mario Batista. So it doesn't matter. He looked very poor in that UFC debut, but I still think that and I think people are catching on because now he's going up to minus 300. So people are starting to catch on that this is a very very good stylistic game for Patchy Mix. Even if he comes up like a dumbass in this fight, Wukalaz still should himself, I guess, get into the realm of Mix. And once it's on the ground, I do think he's going to have a pretty big advantage over a guy like Wukalaz. So give me Mix by sub here, but not loving it. I mean, you just can't trust him until he wins. But I think this is a good matchup for Patchy here in this fight. All right, moving on. Women's bantamweight, we got a fight in the top 10. We got Macy Chasson taking on Yana Santos. Chasson minus 200 and Yana Santos plus 170. This is kind of a strange fight because Chasson was kind of, widely regarded as like someone that could be the next lady up at this weight class. She was out there finishing people, finished Bueno Silva, finished Peony Kanzat, and was kind of like, oh wow, she could be something very good in this weight class. And then she fought Ketlin Vieira, and she looked flat, to be honest. And I do get the concern at minus 200. I am concerned myself because she kind of just hasn't showed up when fighting the higher level of competition. Right, she got knocked out by Aldana, got dominated by Ketlin Vieira, and just hasn't looked good when stepping up. But as I said, this is a step down in competition, fighting the number 10 this time. And not that Yana Santos is bad by any chance. I actually say she's one of the better ladies on the edge of the top 10. Right, she's a veteran, but she's still in the top 10. Like I said, she's been there for a while. She's fought for titles, so she definitely knows what she's doing. If this fight is close by any means, she definitely can squeak out a win. But I do think Chasson will have, quite a few advantages. Obviously, the size is going to be a big advantage for her in every fight. But, striking has evolved leaps and bounds. And, I do think her takedown defense will hold against Yana Santos. Ketlin Vieira is huge, so I understand having trouble with that. But she should be good against Santos. I got her by decision here in this fight. Should be a close one, though. All right, this is a fight that most people have circled on their card as a really, really good fight at bantamweight. Or I'm sorry, this is a mistake. It's at featherweight. Not bantamweight, we got Daniel Santos taking on Ju Sung Yu. Daniel Santos is the favorite at minus 155. Ju Sung Yu plus 135. And I like Santos in this fight. I think this guy is legit, right? I tried to fade him against the Korean Tiger, Jung Yoon Lee, and he kind of just showed that was really just kind of a breakout performance for him. I guess not really a name. If he defeats a guy like Ju Sung Yu the way he did Jung Yoon Lee, that will be a breakout performance because Yu is a very, very highly touted prospect at this point, coming off that crazy round one knockout, 30-second knockout against Jekka Saragi. But I mean, it's Czechoslovakia, so I'm not really going to rate that too highly. But, a knockout like that is a knockout like that. So it's going to get you on the map. But I think people know what they're doing when they're betting Santos here. This guy's, overall game is just legit, right? He's one of those guys coming out of shoot the box that can strike very, very well. Does have great boxing technique, especially in the pocket. We've seen Ju Sung Yu takedown defense fail him a little bit on the regional scene. I know he's a great scrambler, so he's able to get back up to his feet, but hasn't never fought a guy as dynamic as Daniel Santos on the feet and on the ground. So I think just him being able to mix that up, have that second element, maybe if the striking isn't going his way, he has a good chin, can resort to the takedowns. I think this guy, despite, the size disadvantage his past couple fights, he should come into this fight stronger, faster. And I think he just has a chance to really put his game or implement his game on Ju Sung Yu, who hasn't really been tested yet at this level. So I got to go with the more trustworthy guy at this point. I'm picking Santos to win this fight. Minus 155 seems like decent odds for him, honestly. I could eat my words here, but I do like him to win this fight. All right, moving on. Bantamweight fight, we got Chris Gutierrez taking on Farid Basharat. Gutierrez, big dog here, plus 375, and Basharat plus 475. And I get it, right? Bajarat, not dangerous at all. A fly could do more damage than him, but in terms of like actual skills, right? He's good. He is the good Bajarat brother. He's not his brother Javid. He can mix in all elements of the game at a very, very high level, and we saw that in his last fight against Victor Hugo. Came in 10 pounds overweight, and they had to fight at featherweight. He was able to do anything you wanted to him. I was able to take him down, avoided jiu-jitsu, and on the feet he was piecing this guy up all fight. And obviously, I know Chris Gutierrez is obviously always going to be there with the leg kicks, with the knees and stuff like that. And he definitely could be able to find a shot on Farid, but nothing tells me. There's no evidence behind that assumption, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Is that, you're basically just picking Gutierrez and hoping that this guy's going to land, just land something out of nowhere, right? Because we've seen his last couple fights, this guy will, if he's not in a position to win, he will just kind of give up on himself, right? He's low volume. He doesn't throw the hands very often, and even in his takedown defense, he's lazy. Once he's on the ground, he loves to use the guard, try for sweeps, and it's not going to work against Bajarat. It didn't work against Kang Lee. It's not going to work against Bajarat. One of my more confident picks on the card is Farid Bajarat to win this fight by decision. Next up at middleweight, Edmund Shabazian taking on Andre Muniz. And Edmund Shabazian, right? Minus 310. And what are we doing, right? I don't get it, right? We've seen this guy time and time again come in as a huge favorite. Gerald Mearshart, Derek Brunson, all the guys. And we've seen him time and time again fade and get taken down and get beat on the ground. And that's, I'm gonna pick Edmund Shabazian, right? Because I've kind of seen all I need to from Muniz to kind of suggest that his chin just isn't there at this point, and if Edmund lands one clean, that he's gonna get really hurt. But Muniz is like a genuine wrestler, right? He's not just some guy that's gonna try to lay in guard and like look for sweeps or submissions from his back. No, he's an actual wrestler. So if Shabazian isn't able to get this guy out of there quick, we've seen him just struggle. And, I know you'd like, oh, well, he beat Petrosky. Petrosky's wrestler. Yeah, and we saw how Petrosky got done against Cam Rouse and he got smoked. And Shabazian won a 29-28 against him. So I'm honestly, I know the line's widening, but I'm getting more worried for this pick as time goes on. I'm going to pick Shabazian by knockout, but if there was like a double chance bet, like Shabazian by KO or Muniz by sub, that seems like a no-brainer to me because if Muniz is able to get this fight to the ground, I don't think Shabazian's getting up, in my opinion. All right, moving on. Middleweight fight, pretty straightforward. Taba Gautier taking on short notice replacement Trayston Vines. Gautier, I mean, as you can see, minus 1,700. Vines plus 875. Pretty straightforward. Not really going to spend too much time on this. Gautier should knock him out in the first round. Pretty, like I said, straightforward. Vines, if you've watched any of his regional tape, the dude's durability just is not great. You've seen him get knocked out. All of his losses are actually by knockout on the regional scene. It just makes all the much sense that Gautier knocks this guy out in the first round. This dude's one of the more scary prospects we've seen in quite a long time, and yeah, I think this is probably my most confident pick in quite a long time, in my opinion, is Gautier to get it done by knockout against this not quite UFC ready short notice opponent. All right, main card time though. This is an interesting fight at middleweight again. Abush Magomedov taking on Joe Pyfer. Magomedov plus 215 and Pyfer is minus 225. I'm gonna put my bias aside here because if you follow my Twitter, I don't like the dude Pyfer, but he's a decent boxer, right? And outside of the cardio concerns, first round and a half, he's a very good fighter. And obviously I talked about, right, there is some big cardio concerns. This guy is a power chaser, right? Now I was gonna say power puncher, but he's more of a power chaser in my opinion, right? This guy loves finding the finish, loves going for the knockout. If he doesn't get the knockout early, he struggles a lot. He fades in fights. His striking defense gets very poor, keeps his hands low. And if he was fighting not Kelvin Gastelum, he's fighting, maybe a 6 foot Kelvin Gastelum. If he was like that, he probably loses that fight because like the only problem for Gastelum was that he literally just couldn't reach him because he's like 5'9" and shaped like a refrigerator. So Pyfer was able to just get out of the way and like lean his head back, and then Gastelum wasn't able to reach him. But luckily for Pyfer in this fight, Abush also has some cardio issues. Obviously, the Sean Strickland fight, everyone knows how that fight went. Just one of the all-time worst, worst cardio gases I think anyone's ever seen. Um, but he's a decent fighter. He's competent, right? But he's also a gasser too. Bruno nearly finished him late in that fight. Was gassing against Worley Alves, gassed against Bahalio, lost that fight. Gassed against Strickland, got knocked out. So, obviously, Abus has the skills. Definitely has the skills to beat Pyfer, right? Could take him down, could weather that early storm. But, I just think both the chin issues and the cardio issues for Abus are going to be kind of a gift for Pyfer. This seems like a matchup leaning towards him. I got him by early knockout here, but I'm definitely gonna be rooting for a boost because Pyfer just seems like a piece of shit. I'm not gonna lie. All right, moving on. This is also another really good fight at featherweight. Josh Emmett taking on Yusuf Zalal. Top 10 matchup here. Josh Emmett plus 410. Yusuf Zalal minus 525. Very, very, very large odds here for Yusuf Zalal. For a guy that just doesn't really have the finishing instincts at a higher level of competition, which is a concern here because all the finishing instincts are going to be on Josh Emmett, right? The power, right? It's legendary. You've seen him put people out bad, bad, bad with that power, and obviously he has all the finishing upsides here against Zalal. Zalal. Obviously he should win this fight, right? You got to pick the younger fighter. You got to pick just the overall better fighter. He's a really good fighter, right? We've seen him be able to mix up those unorthodox takedowns. He has quick hands now. He developed his hands back on the regional scene. Came back to the UFC. Has been dominating ever since. Obviously, we saw the third round of Cater and his fight with Cater, and obviously that's a little bit of concern because if he's just running away the whole time, Emmett definitely could be live for that power, but as long as the law stays active on the feet with those straight shots, he should just be able to get out of the way of that Emmett overhand. Again, if you've seen one Emmett fight, you've seen it all. He just chases power the whole time. He doesn't really try to wrestle too much. And once again, I think it's going to be his downfall because even if he tries to wrestle Zalal, he's probably not taking him down. So give me Zalal here. A confident pick, not minus 525 confident, but he definitely should get it done by decision. All right, moving on. We got an absolute banger at light heavyweight. Yuri Prochazka taking on Khalil Roundtree Jr. Prochazka minus 190. Khalil Roundtree plus 165. And I do understand why Prochazka is the favorite, right? He has the title experience. Not that Khalil doesn't, but Prochazka, has won the belt. He has fought multiple 5-round fights. He has, been finishing a ton of guys at this higher weight class. And obviously he kind of does have some of the tools to beat a guy like Roundtree. He does have crazy pressure. He's using that head movement a lot more. And obviously we know the chin is, outside of the Pereira fights, but that's Pereira. His chin's been rock solid. So a lot of people just seem to go right off the bat. Oh, Khalil struggles with pressure. Proshka brings the pressure. He's got a good chin. Proshka should win this fight. But in my opinion, I do think that the tools of Khalil Roundtree are kind of just the kryptonite of Prochazka here in this fight, right? He's got those devastating leg kicks that we saw in his last fight. And if there's anything we know about Prochazka, he just doesn't defend leg kicks very well. That's the reason why he struggled mightily in both those Pereira fights. The leg kicks were giving him all sorts of problems that fight. Obviously, I'm not saying Roundtree has the leg kicks of Pereira, but he definitely could use those in this fight. Again, we've seen Prochazka struggle with them, and Roundtree used them to great effect his last fight. And the dude's really fast. Really fast striker. Still at 35. And again, Prochazka looks better on the feet with the striking defense, but the chin is still going to be there to be hit, right? The hands are low, unorthodox feet, striking. Khalil showed he's got a really good chin in that fight with Pereira. Also took a couple nice shots his last fight against Jamal Hill, but I think Khalil can hang in there. I don't think he's going to get knocked out early. And if this fight extends, in my opinion, Roundtree showed that he has the cardio for 5 rounds. He could potentially put Prochazka away here. I think he's going to win a decision here, mainly because, again, like I said, the chin of Prochazka is very good. But, man, I just think he's got the perfect skill set to kind of disrupt a guy like Yuri. And obviously, I'm not counting out Yuri's heart, right? I mean, he has one of the most tremendous hearts I've seen in MMA, but I just like Roundtree in this spot. I think he's got a great skill set to upset the favorite here. He is actually my underdog of the week. If you've checked my Twitter post, I got a lot of flack for it, and maybe I look like a fool, but I'm going with my gut here with Roundtree. All right, moving on. Bantamweight title fight for the co-main event. We got Merab Dvalishvili, dominant champion, taking on Corey Sandhagen, looking for a title in his first undisputed title shot. Dvalishvili, high favorite, minus 400. Sandhagen, plus 300. And listen, it should be more the same for Dvalishvili, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it looks similar to his last couple fights against O'Malley and Umar, just against Umar, where he kind of loses, drops the first couple rounds are a little bit closer, but he's going to take over hard as those later rounds come on. Listen, Sandhagen, I'll give him a lot of credit. Right, this guy's stuck around the top of the division forever. And he's got so many skills, right? And I think we all know that by now, right? Great striker, knockout power, and great jiu-jitsu, but he's struggled in these higher level fights. He's a bit of a choke, honestly, in these high level fights where he's getting title eliminators, he's getting number one contender fights, he's fighting for the title, and he has not looked completely on in those fights. He's actually struggled with the fatigue a couple times in 5-round fights, and I think obviously if you're struggling with fatigue against a lot of these other guys, you're definitely going to fatigue against Merab, because if Corey isn't able to find that one punch or one knee knockout early in this fight, which he definitely could, I'm not saying he can't, but again, like I said with the other couple fights with I forgot his name, the Gutierrez fight, you can't bet on someone just to land a lucky shot. There's got to be real proof behind that, and there's nothing telling me that Merab's slowing down anytime soon. And obviously, I think everyone knows what his game plan is going to be at this point. The dude's getting more dangerous as he's holding the title, and as long as he keeps evolving and he's not slowing down, I don't think anyone's going to be able to beat him in this weight class. So give me Merab to win this fight by decision. There definitely could be a finish. If he does finish Corey, there's going to be some serious talk about him among the best of all time, because I already think he's the best bantamweight. And with this right here, this would be the cherry on top because Sandhagen is a very good opponent. Give me Merab by decision. Very confident in my pick here. All right, main event time, light heavyweight title, the highly anticipated rematch. Magomed Ankalaev taking on Alex Pereira. Ankalaev was sitting at about minus 200 for quite a while. Shot up to minus 260. Pereira plus 220. And listen, before I make my pick, I'm just going to tip my cap to Pereira because this guy never backs down from a fight. He's a legend at this point. I'm gonna say he's a UFC legend. He's fought some of the best in both weight classes. Looked absolutely dominant in both. Even on the back of he entered the UFC on the back end of his career at like 35, and was still able to hold titles in two divisions and still dominate a bunch of people in both those weight classes. Obviously, just a tremendous fighting style, a lot of heart, always down to fight someone. So I just got to tip my cap to Pereira. But in terms of just a stylistic matchup for him in this fight, it's just not a great matchup for him, and it is what it is, right? It was a dominant champion when he lasted, but his time has passed, and it's not again, it's not a disrespect towards Alex. It's just how it is, I think Ankalaev just has the perfect games plan to kind of beat a guy like Pereira. It's almost similar to Leon and Usman. Is Leon better all time than Usman? No, but in this moment, in this time, it's just his time. It's Magomed Ankalaev's time to shine as a light heavyweight champion. He's got the perfect game plan to spoil a guy like Pereira. I think especially in this fight, with Pereira going to be more aggressive, there could be potential for a knockout. I'm going Ankalaev decision here, but I see a lot of people on knockout, and I don't blame them. Right? There's a good reasoning. There's going to be a car crash in the early rounds, and if all evidence points to Ankalaev coming out on top in those spots. Just has the takedown threat, has the overall, grappling advantage. If Pereira gets over aggressive, Ankalaev can take him down. And obviously on the feet, he showed he can hang with a guy like Alex Pereira, who's not really a defensive mastermind. So give me Ankalaev by decision. Sad to see Pereira go out in another two losses like that, but it is what it is. That is the breakdowns. Again, I appreciate all you guys coming out to support. Should be a couple really fun weeks here. Obviously, with the pay per view, but we got a couple good fight nights at Rio and Canada. We move back to Abu Dhabi for UFC 321. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a good night.